Hello, my fellow arachnids. So today we are going to be doing yet another tutorial on this channel, and we're going to be doing yet another scripting tutorial. So today we are going to be learning about functions. Now, functions are basically like variables. There's not many difference from them, but functions, whenever you call them or you type them, um what they do is they do something, but a variable, it's something that holds information. So I have this script over here, and you just want to insert a script into the script surface, delete everything, and I'm going to show you what functions are. So functions, whenever you call them, they do something, and whenever you call a variable, you could put them in printing, for example. But yeah, you could do that with functions, but that's more for variables. So here we go. Function. Let's see what we can name the function. Hello world. So function hello world, and whenever we call the function, we will print. We want to do print parentheses quotes. Hello world. And we gotta end so that everything is not a function. And you know if it works if there's no like underlining that is red, or you have this little drop down that you could do this. So yeah, that's how you know if it works. Anyways, we could we could call the function. We could just do hello world. Now, so what will you think will happen? Do you think it would print hello world, or do you think it would print function and a whole lot of numbers? Well, if you said hello world, you will be correct, because it prints hello world. Okay, so there's a lot you could do with functions. Functions are very useful. You could connect and then function, which is also useful, and yeah, you could use them for remote events, and it's all cool. We could do another thing. We could do function. Function numbers. We could do function add numbers. Now, this is where it gets a bit tricky, kind of tricky, so I'm going to explain it a lot more. So, function add numbers is, function add numbers. Let's do some parameters. Now, parameters are what you put in these parentheses when you make functions, and so let's make some. Let's do number 1 and number 2. Now, num is a sort of version of number, so you could do number 1 or number 2, but I'm just going to do num1, num2, and then we could do print num1 plus num2. So whenever we run this, it would print num1 and num2. Now, there is a problem with this, because the computer doesn't know what num1 and num2 mean. We never put it in as a variable or anything. Even if we do put it as a variable, it just will give us an error, because the computer gets confused, because the function is like its own little script, as you can see, because it has its own drop-down. So it wouldn't connect. So what you have to do is you have to tell it what functions means afterwards. That's with functions. With variables, you do it first. With functions, you do it last. So, let's say add numbers to. So num1 is the first number, and 2 is the first number. So that means the computer's gonna link that and say that 2 is num1. Then we're gonna make a comma, because there's a comma here, and also we're listing numbers, like we're listing things, and then we can do 33. Now, num2 is number 2, and 33 is number 2. So now that it knows, it shouldn't give us an error. So I'm going to show you what happens if we don't put this, and it should just give us an error. It should say something, attempt to perform arithmetic addition on nil. Now, what that basically means, as I said in the last episode, nil, or not nil, as I said in the last, I think it was printing or the last episode. Nil is basically the way of explaining that the computer is confused. So it's basically saying you're trying to perform. See, this plus sign is an arithmetic symbol, and it's basically called add. So this is add to the computer, and you're trying to put this with nil, and nil is basically like unknown. So you have to explain it, and then it should not give us an error. So we could do 233, and it should print 35 because 2 plus 33 is 35 if you did not know that. So this is really cool. Functions are awesome, and you could do a lot with functions. Now we could do so much. We could add num3. Num3. We could have three parameters. You could have a lot of parameters. We could do 2, 33, 35. Now I'm not a mathematician, but I know that's 71. So maybe it would print 71. 35. So that's weird. I guess you just can't have three parameters. But that's no worries. You probably won't have three parameters a lot. Anyways, we could add some more numbers. 65, 44. I know you guys probably want to learn about coding, not math, but this is just an example. So that will give us 99, I believe. So we could do 90. Ooh, varied the name. What happened here? Oh, I see. We put this by accident. Yeah, no, we're fine now. So it should print 109. As we could see, I am bad at math. Oh yeah, that is 109. I'm so dumb. Anyways, I want to keep this video pretty short because there's not a lot to know about functions, but actually, you know how I taught you about childs and parents? Every parent has a child. And every child has a parent, and sometimes parents have their own parents. So, look at this. So we're gonna combine functions with mentioning it in the game. We're gonna use remote events. Now, I'm not gonna go into remote events. I'm just gonna briefly touch on this topic because although it is very important, it is a bit complex for not maybe complex, but it could get a lot really confusing when we're just learning about functions. So we're gonna mention the game. So everything. This is the game, and then we're gonna go into the players. So now we're selecting only the players, and then we're gonna do a remote event. Now so what the remote event is, player added. So whenever a player is added to the game, this will run, but we have to add something. :connect. Now, what :connect is, it's connecting the script and the game, and it runs, and it's just making the script run. So :connect, it is mandatory. Don't forget :connect, and then within these parentheses, we're going to write function, and then we're going to add more parentheses, and then just make it like this. And this is where you put your parameters. So there's player input. There's so many parameters. I will not go into all of them. There's WWT. So it's all good. Game of player player added :connect function. So you're connecting, and then whatever. And here we go. End with that. You want to make sure that it doesn't have that. It will give you a syntax error right here. You want to put like that, so it's no longer. Also, tip in the corner, you should see a syntax error whenever your code is wrong. So that's helpful. It's like an output, but you don't even need to run the script to figure it out. So whenever a player is added, it would print player has been added. Now, you might be asking, what is a remote event? Now, a remote event is like this. So, your TV. So, like you have a remote on your TV. So, whenever you press a button on your remote, it would activate an event on your TV. Same with this. There's so many types of remote events that we could go on. and those are technically the buttons. And whenever we use one of those buttons or one of those scripts in this case, it will fire an event. In this case, the event is whenever a player is added. And then the button is player added. So whenever you press that button, whenever a player is added, it would print player has been added. Now make sure to add connect and function, or else it would give you a syntax error or a ton of things, and boom, a player has been added. And notice how this only did it when players was loaded in. See, if we didn't play and we just did run, it should not do a player has been added. And the reason is for this because no child has been added into players. So this could come in handy so many times. And yeah, so that's another thing for functions. Now we could do so many things. We could do player removed. Now it's probably self-explanatory. Player removed is whenever a player was removed. So we could do that player removing connect function. Now I might be doing it a bit fast, but you could always pause the video and comment your questions. I will try and answer them as briefly as possible so you guys don't get confused. So for player removing, whenever a player gets removed, we are going to print a player has been a player has left. Now whenever we play, we're going to play, and you're not going to see any things in the output except auto recovery file, because that's just automatic. Can't really do anything about that. But once we load in and then there's a player, if we stop, boom, a player has left because the child has been taken away from the parent. Now, I know that sounds really wrong, but there's no child in players now. So this is really cool, and there's just so many things you could do it, but I'm not going to go into remote events right now. But if you want to see all the remote events, you could always go into View, and then Object Browser, and then you could see all the remote events. You could go down to R, and then you see remote events. There's Clear Our Children, Clone, Destroy, Find First Child, Find First Ancestor, actually. Find First Ancestor. There's a lot of these. Now, the Object Browser will look like this, and you might be super confused about it, and if you're an advanced developer, you're probably going to use like a quarter, maybe half, if you've been doing it for years. But just don't worry about all these things, handles, group service. Just worry about the R section and then go to remote event. Now, unfortunately, I don't know how to search, so you're just going to have to go like this. But I found it in like 1 minute. Not even 1 minute, like a few seconds, so it shouldn't be that hard. But if you can't, then no worries. You could just pause the video and look at all of these. And even though you might be confused about what all of these are, you could maybe like get a few. Look, on client event, on server event, changed attribute. Look, see. Attribute changed. Attribute is basically a property, so maybe whenever a property was changed, it would fire something. Changed child added whenever a child was added. Ooh. So yeah, that's pretty cool. It's an instance, but we didn't learn about instance yet. Descendant added. So it's all really cool. And you could just dip your toes into that. Don't use all of the scripts, though, because it may be too hard for you to actually script on your own. But I swear you will learn that once eventually. So that was functions, and I hope you guys learned a lot. Sorry for there to be noise in my last video. That was my air conditioner, but I hope it's all good now. Like and subscribe if you learned a lot, and I hope you have an amazing day. Bye. And don't eat arachnids, by the way.